All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call Halayim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book of the Bible. All right. So, as you see on screen here, I have this article and the title reads, Rothschild confesses no country dares wage war without Rothschild banking. And that is completely true. That is 100% true because all wars are bankers' wars. All right. The Rothschilds, they create all the wars. And they also determine the outcome of wars. Another country can't even attack another country, all right, unless it is given the green light from the Rothschilds. All right. Now you also find this out in a book called The World Order, written by Eustace Mullins, and we're going to go into this book today and we're going to read it, man. All right. The World Order. All right. Our Secret Rulers by Eustace Mullins. Now, Eustace Mullins was a scholar. All right. He did all his research, all right, and all his studying at the Library of Congress. All right. That's where he got all his information from. And then he wrote all of these books, man. All right. So we're going to get into this book called The World Order, Our Secret Rulers by Eustace Mullins today. All right. So when you go into the first few pages, all right, page 10. All right, which is chapter 2. All right, it's called The Rothschilds. And it goes into how they start all the wars, create all the wars, determine the outcome of wars. Another country can't even attack another country, all right, unless it's given the green light from the Rothschilds, man. All right. I say this all the time when I go into, talk about World War III, the elites, they go by a blueprint called the Albert Piker Mazzini blueprint, which was a blueprint to start 3 world wars. And the Third World War, all right, was going to be created, all right, by bringing conflict and controversy between the Muslim world and the Judaism world. And that's exactly what you see going on right now. And by causing conflict between the Muslim world and the Judaism world, is going to bring the rest of the world into a conflict, all right, causing World War III. And that's exactly what you see happening, man. It's all manufactured. The world is a stage, all right. First and foremost, ultimately it's the Heavenly Father, of course, but he's using Esau, Edom to do it, man, to carry out his will, his prophecy, his word, man. Because it's biblical prophecy. So it's the Lord that's doing it, really. It's the Lord that's really doing it. But this is how the story's being played out. The Lord is using Esau, Edom to do everything, man. You see? All right. So let's read this article a little bit and we're going to get into this book. All right. So it says Rothschild heir confesses, and that's part of Esau, Edom's sword. All right. That, the blessing that Esau, Edom was given, all right, was the sword. So that's why he's able to create wars. Matter of fact, let's get into that real quick. All right. Esau, Edom, all right, being the so-called white man. All right. The Edomites today are the so-called Caucasian race, the so-called white race. All right. And Esau, Edom's blessing was to be given the fatness of the earth, meaning they will have everything they want on this planet Earth. They have complete rulership of this earth right now, but it's only for a short time in a season, right? The Lord is getting ready to bring this man down forever. And there's also going to be a time where there's never going to be an Edomite on this earth again, a so-called white man on this earth ever again. All right. So this is Genesis 27 and around the 40th verse. All right. But I'll start up I start at verse 38. So this is Genesis 27 and 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing? My father bless me, even also me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Yeah, because Jacob stole the blessing from him, man. All right, that's how the Lord wanted to play out. All right, verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. So he was given, all right, the fatness of the earth, complete rulership of this earth. That's why Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, starting with the elite bankers, the satanic Illuminati elite wicked banking families, the Rothschild'S, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, the Collins, starting with them, they ruled the planet earth. Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, right? So he has the fatness of the earth and the dew from heaven above, right? Verse 40, and by thy sword thou shalt live. That's how Esau, Edom lives, by the sword, meaning by death and destruction. So that's why these Rothschild'S, the Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, started with the elite bankers, the Rothschild'S, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Collins, right? They create wars, man. That's how they live. By thy sword thou shalt live, because there's money in war. So they create war. All right? So money could be created, and that's how they have power, man. You know? They also loan money to governments and then charge interest on that loan. And that's how they profit. You know? It says, and by thy sword thou shalt live. So that was the blessing of Esau, Edom. So that's why, you know, the bankers, they create wars. They create destruction. Bro. They created in world wars. They set the whole world, the whole earth at war. Esau, Edom, by thy sword thou shalt live. All right? And not just the world wars, all the civil wars. You know? All these wars that happen on earth. Not just the world wars, but, you know, wars that happen between countries and all that, man. Throughout history. And by thy sword thou shalt live. And that's also why when you read Revelation, the 6th chapter, right, it goes into the red horse, all right, which represents Esau, all right. Revelation 6:3, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and that represents Esau, Edom. It's not Esau, Edom, the red man. All right, Edom comes from the Hebrew word Adawam, which means red. All right, wasn't Esau born? All right, red, right? And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. And that's what Esau, Edom has done. He took peace from the earth by creating all these wars between nations. The bankers, man. The Rothschild'S. You see? And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, you see? And that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Yeah, because that was Esau, Edom's blessing, the sword. All right? To bring destruction and war and death and hell upon this earth. That was his blessing, the sword. So that's why he does that and is able to do that. To bring hell and death and destruction and pain and misery upon this earth, man. Create giant wars, world wars. because that was his blessing, right? And also, he's also the pale horse too, right? Verse 7, Revelation 6 and 7. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat there on, and his name that sat on him was Death. All right, and hell followed him, and that's all Esau, Edom has done upon this earth. Bring death and hell. The so-called white man, starting with the elite bankers, the Rothschilds, the Collars, DuPonts. All right, and power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. And that's exactly what you see, man, with Esau, Edom. All right. So you go back to this article. Rothschild heir confesses no country dares wage war without Rothschild backing. Yeah, backing. All right. And that's true. A country can't even attack another country without the go ahead from the Rothschilds. They create all the wars. Right? So it says, and we're going to get, like I said, we're going to get into that book, man. We're going to get into this book. All right? All right? It says Dame, it says Dame Anna Rothschild, a seventh generation member of the infamous Rothschild banking dynasty, has openly confirmed the family's unparalleled influence over world events. And that's true. All right? A seventh generation member of the infamous Rothschild banking dynasty has openly confirmed the family's unparalleled influence over world events. Yeah. All right. Like 9/11. Right? 9/11. You know, and even school shootings, you know. Major events, man. All right? So, matter of fact, let's get into this book, man. All right? The whole point where I want to get, all right, is in this page right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. This page right here. All right, but I want to read all of this. All right, I want to read these first two pages right here. You know, these pages right here on the right. These first two pages on the right, and over all of this. But the whole point is in right here. You know, it goes into how they create all the wars and all that stuff, man. All right, but let's read it, man. Let's get into this history, this knowledge, right? So this book is The World Order, all right, by Eustace Mullins. All right, and Eustace Mullins was educated and did all his research at the Library of Congress, man. That's where he got all his information from, and then he started writing many books, man. Right? So it says the Rothschilds, all right, chapter 2. It says, "Let me but issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes its laws." Woo! All right, and that's by Meyer Amschel Bauer. All right, Rothschild. All right, because before the Rothschilds were known as Rothschilds, they were the Bauer family. All right. So let's continue reading. It says, in its issue of December 1983, Forbes magazine noted that half of Germany's top 10 banks are Frankfurt based, and that's where the Rothschilds came out of, Frankfurt. It says the modern world's financial system and updating of the Babylonian monetary system. Yeah, because that's where it goes all the way back to the Babylonian money-making system. All right. The modern world's financial system and updating of the Babylonian monetary system of taxes and money creation, all right, was perfected in Frankfurt on Main in the province of Hesse. All right, Meyer Amschel Bauer, later Rothschild, discovered that although loans to farmers and small businesses could be profitable, the real profits lay in making loans to governments. Yeah, and then they charge interest on those loans. All right. There's a documentary called damn, I forgot the name of the documentary. I'm about to look it up real quick. Let's get it real quick. I actually got it saved actually, and Apostle Gabar put me on this documentary by watching one of his videos. Right here, the capitalist conspiracy. Yep. All right, and there's another book that goes with it, the Naked Capitalist. All right, they wrote this book. All right, the people that wrote this book were inspired by this documentary right here. All right, the capitalist conspiracy. All right, watch this, man. All right, so let's get back into this book. It says Meyer M. Shell Ballard discovered that although loans to farmers and small businesses could be profitable, the real profits lay in making loans to governments. Born in Frankfurt in 1743, Meyer M. Shell married Gutter Schnapper. All right, he served a 3-year apprenticeship in Hanover at the Bank of Oppenheimer. All right, and that name should be familiar too. All right, you see how everything just be tying all together. Right, he served a 3-year apprenticeship in Hanover at the Bank of Oppenheimer. During this period, he had occasion to be service to Lieutenant General Baron von Estorff. Von Estorff was the principal advisor to Landgrave Frederick II of Hesse, the wealthiest man in Europe. Frederick was worth from 70 to 100 million florins, much of it inherited from his father, Wilhelm VIII, brother of King of Sweden. Baron von Estorff advised the Landgrave that Meyer M. Shell showed the uncanny ability to increase money through his investments. The Landgrave immediately sent for him. All right. It says, at this time, King George III was trying to put down the American rebellion. His troops were being outfought at the hardy Americans, by the hardy Americans who were accustomed to wilderness battles. Meyer M. Shell arranged for King George to hire 16,800 sturdy young Hessian soldiers from the Landgrave, a considerable addition to Hesse's fortune. This advantageous relationship came to a halt with a sudden death in 1785 of the Landgrave, all right, who was only 25 years old. However, Meyer M. Shell attained absolute influence over his successor, Elector Wilhelm I, who, like Meyer M. Shell, all right, had also been born in 1743. All right, it was said that they were like two shoes, so well did they go together. It was a pleasant change from Meyer M. Shell's relationship with the former Landgrave, who had been a very difficult and demanding person. In fact, the Landgrave's sudden death was luckily placed Meyer M. Shell in charge of the largest fortune in Europe. It says, as he prospered, Meyer M. Shell placed a large red shield over his door of the house in the Judengasse, all right, and that's, you know, how they became the Rothschilds, because that's what the Rothschild means. It means red shield, all right. It says, as he prospered, Meyer M. Shell placed a large red shield over his door of the house in the Judengasse, all right, which he shared with the Schiff family. He took the name Rothschild from his sign, all right. In 1812, when he died, he left 1 billion francs to his 5 sons. The eldest son, Anselm, was placed in charge of the Frankfurt Bank. He had no children, and the bank was later closed. The second son, Solomon, was sent to Vienna, all right, where he soon took over the banking monopoly formerly shared among 5 Jewish families, all right. Arnstein, Excels, Mueller, all right, Stein, and Cena, all right. The third son, Nathan, found the London branch after he profited in some Manchester dealings in textiles and dye stuffs, which caused him to be widely feared and hated. Carl, the fourth son, went to Naples, where he became head of the occult group, the Alta Vendita. All right. The youngest son, James, found the French branch of the House of Rothschild in Paris. All right. Thus, strategically located, the five sons began lucrative operations in government finance. Today, their holdings are concentrated in the Five Arrows funded of Curacao. All right. And the Five Arrows Corp, Toronto, Canada. All right. It says the name is taken from the Rothschild sign of an eagle with five arrows clutched in its talons, signifying the five sons. And you find that arrow, you find that symbol on the dollar bill. You find that symbol on the dollar bill again. It says today their holdings concentrate. It says today their holdings are concentrated in the Five Arrows Fund of Curacao and the Five Arrows Corp. All right, Toronto, Canada. The name is taken from the Rothschild's sign of an eagle. All right, you know that's Esau Edom's animal, right? The eagle. All right, with five arrows clutched in its talons. All right, let's get that real quick. That's on the back of the dollar bill. All right, eagle on the dollar. Yep. There you go. The eagle with the arrows clutched in his talons. You see? Come on, man. They control all the money. Listen. All right? It says right here. Meyer M. Shell. This is a quote from Meyer M. Shell Bauer. Let me but issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes its laws. The money system is so, if you actually knew how the money system worked, oh man, you people have no idea how corrupt the money system is. So it says today their holdings are concentrated in the Five Arrows Fund of Curacao and the Five Arrows Corp, Toronto, Canada. The name is taken from the Rothschild sign of an eagle with five arrows clutched in its talons, signifying the five sons. And what's on the back of the dollar bill? The eagle with the arrows clutched in his talons. Bro, come on. All right. It says the first precept of success in making government loans lies in creating a demand. All right. That is by taking part in the creation of financial panics. You see? So you know damn well the Rothschilds, all right, the bankers, they created what? Financial panics. Who do you think created this pandemic, scandemic, COVID-19? Yo, Jabba, come on, man. It was a test run by the elites, man. The first precept of success in making government loans lies in creating a demand. That is by taking part in the creation of financial panics, depression. So they created the Great Depression, right? All right. In the creation of financial panics, depressions, famines, wars, and revolutions. So they create all this, man. Panics, depressions, famines, wars, and revolutions, man. All right. The overwhelming success of the Rothschilds lay in their willingness to do what had to be done. All right. All right. As Frederick Morton writes in the preface to the Rothschilds, all right, for the last 150 years, the history of the House of Rothschilds has been an amazing degree the backstage of history Western Europe because of their success in making loans not to individuals but to nations. All right, they reap huge profits. Yeah, they don't just make loans to individuals, they make loans to entire nations, governments of nations. All right, someone once, right, we almost to the point, kind of. It says, someone once said that the wealth of the Rothschilds consists of the bankruptcy of nations. Yeah. All right. It says in the Empire of City, all right, EC Newt says the fact that the House of Rothschild made its money in great crashes of history, all right, and the great wars of history. You see, they create all the wars, man, going back to, what this Rothschild has said right here. Dame Anna Rothschild, a seventh-generation member of the infamous Rothschild banking dynasty, has openly confirmed the family's unparalleled influence over world events. All right, no country dares wage war without Rothschild backing. Right? So it says made its money in the great crashes of history and the great wars of history. The very periods when others lost their money is beyond question. All right. On July 8th, 1937, the New York Times noted that Professor Wilhelm, a German historian, has said the Rothschilds introduced the rule of money into European politics. All right. The Rothschilds were the servants. The Rothschilds were the servants of money who undertook the reconstruct of the world as an image of money and its functions. Money and the employment of wealth have become the law of European life. We no longer have nations but economic provinces. Bro, you see? Because that's what nations really are. Economic provinces, all right? Giant corporations. That's what America is a corporation, an economic province. Come on, bro. Every nation is actually a business. Right? It says on June 4th, 1879, the New York Times noted Baron Lionel N. D. Rothschild, all right, head of the world famous banking house of Messrs, all right, Rothschild and Company, died at the age of 71. He was the son of the late Baron N. M. Rothschild, who founded the house in London in 1808 and died in 1836. His father came to the conclusion that in order to perpetuate the fame and power of the Rothschilds, which had already become worldwide, it was necessary that the family be kept together and devoted to the common cause. In order to do this, he proposed that they should intermarry and form no marital unions outside the family. All right, a council of the heads of the houses was called at Frankfurt in 1826, and the views of Baron Nathan were approved. All right, John Reeves, in his authorized biography, The Rothschilds, the Financial Rulers of Nations, right, noted that when the family met in London in 1857 for the marriage of Lionel's daughter Leonora to her cousin Alphonse, son of James Rothschild of Paris, all right, Disraeli, all right, declared, under this roof are the heads of the family of Rothschild, a name famous in every capital of Europe and every division of the globe. If you like, we shall divide the United States into two parts. All right, one for you, James, and one for you, Lionel. All right, it says Napoleon will do exactly in all that I shall advise him. You see how they control everything, bro? They divided the United States into two parts, just for James to have and Lionel to have. All right, Napoleon will do exactly in all that I shall advise him. Come on, man. It says this was the political origin of the American Civil War. All right, they create all the wars. This was the origin of the American Civil War. This is the real reason why the Civil War was fought. All right. the political origin of the American Civil War. All right. It says the Rothschilds feared the rapidly growing and increasingly preposterous free American republic, all right? And they privately resolved that it would be less of a danger to their worldwide interests if it were broken up into two smaller and weaker nations, all right? So you see, this is the truth. You see it now, man. All right. It says in the Rothschilds, all right, the financial rulers of nations, all right, John Reeves writes, all right, the first occasion in which Nathan assisted the English government was in 1819 when he undertook the loan of 60 million, all right, from 1818 to 1832. All right, Nathan issued 8 other loans totaling 105,400,000. All right, he subsequently, all right, issued 18 government loans totaling 700 million. To the Rothschilds, nothing could have occurred more propitiously than the outbreak of the American Revolt and the French Revolution, as the two enabled them to lay the foundation of the immense wealth they have since acquired. All right, the House of Rothschild was and is the ruling power in Europe, and for all the political powers were willing to acknowledge the sway of the great financial deposit or despot. All right, and like obedient vassals, pay their tribute without murmur. All right. Like obedient vassals, obedient slaves. You see? All right. It says its influence was so all powerful that it was a saying, no war could be undertaken without the assistance of the Rothschilds. So this is all true, what she's saying. The Rothschild heir. No country dare wages war without Rothschild banking. And we're reading it right here. Right? It says its influence was so all powerful. Yeah. All right. The Rothschilds' influence was so powerful that it was a saying. No war could be undertaken without the assistance of the Rothschilds. All right. They rose to a position of such power in the political and commercial world that they became the dictators of Europe. So they really control the world. They control all the aspects of the earth, man. They control all the wars and what goes on, major events that go on in the world, man. Esau, Edom was given the fatness of the earth. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. That's Job 9:24. The wicked being Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Starting with the elite bankers, the Rothschilds in there. It says, to the public, the archives of the family, which could throw so much light upon history, are a profound secret, a sealed book kept well hidden. All right, but the Lord revealed all this information to his prophets, man. All right. You know, it says on July 27, 1844, Mazzini said Rothschild could be king of France if he so desired. The Jewish Encyclopedia noted, 1909 edition, all right, in the year 1848, the Paris house of Rothschild was reckoned to be worth 600 million francs as against 352 million francs held by all the other Paris bankers. All right. It says Professor Werner Sombart wrote, the principal loan floaters of the world, the Rothschilds, were later the first railway kings. All right. The period of 1820 onwards became the age of the Rothschilds. So that At the middle of the century, it was a common dictum. There is only one power in Europe, and that is the Rothschilds, all right? And that comes from Jews and modern capitalism, right? It says right here, it says right here, Hearst, all right, Chicago, Hearst, Chicago Evening American commented December 3rd, 1923. The Rothschilds can start or prevent wars. Right? That's the whole point. This is what we've been getting into. This the whole point of this lesson, man. All right? The Rothschilds can start or prevent wars. All wars are bankers' wars. All right? Their word could make or break empires. You see? And the Roth they done with America. They don't need America no more. That's why they're getting ready. They're bringing these nations together. All right? For this third world war, so America could be destroyed and all these other nations could be destroyed because they're getting ready. They're ready for their new world order, man. But it's biblical prophecy. That's why it's all happening like this and being played out like this. All right, the Rothschilds can start or prevent wars. All right, their word could make or break empires. All right. It says, Reeves notes, all right, the fall of Napoleon was the rise of Rothschild. All right, Napoleon was later slowly poisoned to death with arsenic by a Rothschild agent. All right, they had no need of any other return from exile. All right, the New York Evening Post noted July 22nd, 1924, the Kaiser, all right, had to consult Rothschild to find out whether he could declare war. You see? So all orders come from on high, or from the Rothschild. When a nation wants to start a war, they got to get the okay from the Rothschilds, from the bankers, man. A country can't even attack it. So when all these things you see happening going on right now, all right, in the earth, all these wars that's popping off right now, that's all from on high, man. All right. The Kaiser had to consult Rothschild to find out whether he could declare war. All right. Another Rothschild carried out the whole burden of the conflict, which overthrew Napoleon. The Kaiser's chancellor, all right, Bethmann Hallweg, all right, who actually precipitated World War I, was a member of the Frankfurt banking family, all right, Bethmann, and a cousin of the Rothschilds. You see? All right? Come on, man. It says, after the fall of Napoleon, Solomon persuaded the ruler of Austria to issue patents of nobility to the five brothers. All right. The Congress of Vienna was the emergence of the moth from its cocoon. All right. The diktat of this Congress was a simple one. All right. The aristocracies of Europe must submit to our will or they are doomed. The death sentence upon the noble line of Europe was pronounced by those who had the will to carry out their edict. It took another country to perfect the work, all right, not because the killers were weak, but because they wished to proceed cautiously, all right, without revealing their full strength. In combat, the decisive weapon is the one your opponent does not know about, all right? So they create all the wars. You see, man? All right, and that's the whole point to teach you that in this lesson, man. All right, let's actually get into this article, though. It says, speaking on a recent CNBC interview, all right, the daughter of Lord Jacob Rothschild admitted that no government or king has gone to war without the Rothschild family support and approval. And we just proved that with this book we've been reading, man. All right, written by Eustace Mullins, man. All right, it says the Kaiser had to consult Rothschild. He had to get the okay from the Rothschilds to what? To find out whether he could declare war. All right. So it says right here, no government or king has gone to war without the Rothschild family support or approval. All right, underscoring their control over international banking and the flow of capital that powers global conflicts. You see, Dame Hannah highlighted how Meyer M. Shall Rothschild founded the empire in the 1760s. All right, and we just went over that history in this book, man. Right? We just went over that history. All right. You see, because he was born in 1743. Right. It says empire in the 1760s in Frankfurt, and strategically sent his five. We just read all of this, man. We just read all this now. We just read all this history in the book, man. All right, so she on point what she's saying. Right? It says this created the world's. She's right because she would know she's the family, man. She's a Rothschild. All right, this created the world's first truly international banking network, allowing the family to dominate cross-border finance. All right. So this is her right here. All right, a member of the Rothschild family. Yep. So let's see it.
This is an extraordinary story. So he was born in a place called the Judengasse, which was a Jewish ghetto.
Yeah, we just read that. Let's see if I can bring it up again. Hold on. If I can't find it, we just read that. Hold on. Give me a sec. Hold on, give me a sec. Damn, now I can't find it. Hold on. Yeah. All right. So that's exactly what she's. Look. All right. So.
Story. So he was born in a place called the Judengasse, which was a Jewish.
Yeah. All right. So you see it right here. We read about that. All right. As he prospered, Meyer M. Shell placed his large red shield over the door of his house in the Eustace. All right. So what she's saying, she on point, man. All right. She would know. All right. Which was the Jewish neighborhood, she said.
Ghetto, basically. And it was the house that he lived in when he eventually had 13 children was only 14 feet wide. And he lived there with his very, very overpowering and dominant and an incredibly brilliant wife who was called Guttel. He was determined to get out of this ghetto. At night time, the ghetto was closed. You weren't allowed to leave. The street was so narrow that no sunlight could penetrate. There was no plumbing, there was no sewage, there was nothing. So everything you can imagine happened in this street. And unsurprisingly, he wanted to get out of there. And he started a small coin business, and that did reasonably well. But actually, and this is where it ties into legacy, his great strength was to send his 5 sons to the capitals of Europe at that time. And what they did is they set up, in effect, the first international banking system.
And we read all that history in this book, man. We just read all that history in this book. What she's saying is literally right here. Boom. Where you see my mouse at. I don't know if you can see it. All right, right here where I have it highlighted. Boom. Right here. All right.
So whereas everyone used to be in separate different countries or separate cities until then, these 5 boys communicated with each other, sometimes by pigeon, and they wrote to each other in.
All right, so let's continue reading. It says, Dame Hannah emphasized the family's guiding principles of togetherness, which enabled constant communication across their network. She specifically noted that the 5 brethren sometimes used carrier pigeons to relay short, critical messages swiftly and methodically that complemented their trusted carriers, all right, and gave them a decisive edge in an era of slow postal systems, all right. The Rothschilds' control over financing has long been linked to major historical events, including loans that support governments during the Napoleonic Wars and beyond. We just read that history, all right? Historical accounts show Nathan Meyer Rothschild in London played a central role in the funding British efforts against Napoleon through bullion transfers and subsidies to allies, operations that required the family's tactic approval for any large-scale conflict to proceed without financial collapse. You see? All right, and we read all that, man. It says, while mainstream narratives downplay the family's role as merely philanthropy, all right, and an investment, Dame Anna's remarks shine a light on the real power behind the throne, a dynasty that has shaped wars, economies, and governments for over 2 centuries through its iron grip on international capital. Yeah, all right, and that's true. We just read all that. All right, the Rothschild legacy continues today through their institutions. All right, but Dame Anna's admission reminds the world that behind the polished facade, a wealth of duty lies the ability to decide whether nations rise or fall in battle. Yeah, and they're creating this third world war now, man. All right, they're creating this third world war now. All right, so my battery's dying. So Lord willing, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Ratazah, this lesson is edifying, and it was edifying. All right, call Halalyum Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. All right, so on to the next one. Shalom, shalom.